The world gasped, but the palace did not blink. In a scene as chilling as it was tragic, Prince Harry collapsed just moments after an explosive cache of Meghan's private emails was released by Buckingham Palace. Was it heartbreak? Betrayal? Or a carefully orchestrated royal takedown? Whatever it was, this was no accident, and it was only the beginning. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. They said the collapse happened precisely 8 minutes after the statement went live. No warning, no time to prepare. Just a seismic blow delivered in digital form, unleashed by the very institution Harry once called home. He was reportedly mid-conference, surrounded by aides, when the news broke. Witnesses describe him going pale, standing suddenly, then crumpling without a word. Emergency protocol was initiated within seconds, but it was the silence afterward that made the loudest noise. The palace confirmed his collapse, but refused to elaborate. No official statement, no clarification, just a curt no comment as speculation engulfed every corner of the internet. And while Harry lay unconscious, his wife Meghan was unreachable. Not in the sense of being distant, but truly cut off. Her team offered no statements. Her devices reportedly went dark. The timing felt more than unfortunate, it felt deliberate. As if someone wanted her isolated, powerless, unable to control the narrative spiraling out of control. But perhaps the most sinister detail wasn't the content of the emails, but the timing. The palace released them with surgical precision, while Harry was in a secure yet vulnerable location. Not in Montecito, not in public, but somewhere private enough for his reaction to remain hidden, if only briefly. And still, they failed to contain the aftermath. Conflicting reports add to the chaos. Some claim Harry had received a veiled warning days before an anonymous message hinting at betrayal. Others insist he had no idea, that the collapse wasn't just shock, but devastation, that the words in those emails didn't just betray royal secrets, they shattered the last emotional bridge between Harry and the family he once defended. Palace insiders, speaking on condition of anonymity, describe the collapse not as medical, but as emotional. A man broken by the weight of too many wars, too many lies, and now an attack so personal it brought him to his knees. One aide whispered, it wasn't his body that failed him, it was his heart. And while tabloids spun theories and pundits demanded answers, the truth remained locked behind palace walls. For those closest to the crown, the collapse wasn't a tragedy, it was a message. A warning. Proof that even the son of a king isn't safe, when secrets are no longer sacred. But what could possibly be in these emails so powerful, so poisonous, that the palace risked detonating its own bloodline? Buried in digital vaults until now, Meghan's private emails weren't just messages, they were time bombs. And when they finally surfaced, they exposed a woman caught between royal chains and personal rebellion. But who leaked them? And why now? The files were extensive. Dozens of emails, each more jarring than the last. Not press releases, not formal replies, these were raw. Unfiltered. Messages of anguish, resolve, and quiet defiance. Words never meant to see daylight. And yet here they were, carved into the public eye by the very institution they were written about. The betrayal cut deeper than anything the press had ever managed. Inside those digital threads were confessions, frustrations with royal protocol, bitterness at constant surveillance, repeated references to being silenced strategically, surgically. Meghan wrote of playing the long game, of reclaiming the narrative they stole. One chilling line stood out across multiple messages: the palace walls aren't made of stone, they're made of silence. But even silence cracks. But it wasn't just emotion, it was strategy. She laid out conversations, consultations, plans, carefully worded emails to legal teams, communications with unnamed confidantes about how to protect herself, her children, and ironically her husband. Among them was one addressed cryptically to a Hollywood fixer. No name, no timestamp, but its content suggested a looming media pivot that hadn't yet unfolded. When they come for me again, I need this locked and loaded, she wrote. What this was remains unclear, but the implication was unmistakable: she was preparing for war. Even more heartbreaking were the personal letters buried among the political calculations. Letters to her estranged father, written during moments of visible pain. Pleas for peace, for dignity, for silence. I don't want you to defend me, one message read. I want you to stop giving them ammunition. Those letters, never meant for the public, now lived in permanent exposure, stripped of context, weaponized by their very existence. Other messages revealed a deeper fear. Meghan spoke of feeling watched, of strange glances from staff members, of conversations that circled back to her through unexpected routes. They know more than I've said aloud, she confessed in one. She referenced coded threats, briefings that seemed to warn her without speaking plainly. One email, sent at 3:11 a.m., simply read, "I'm not safe here anymore." But what truly shocked cyber analysts wasn't just what was in the emails, but where they came from. These weren't hacked from a Gmail account or leaked through carelessness. These came from an encrypted server heavily protected, with two-factor authentication and dynamic IP tracking. For them to be released, someone had to access a highly secured system. Someone who knew her digital defenses inside out. Which raises the question no one at the palace dares answer: was it an outsider? Or was it someone inside? Every message, every comma, had been meticulously chosen when written. But now, out of context and exposed, they painted Meghan as a mastermind or a martyr depending on which side you stood on. And yet, the real scandal may not be what Meghan wrote. It may be who chose to release it. And when. But if Meghan's words were raw and real, the palace's timing to release them was cold and calculated, and someone powerful gave the green light. No fingerprints, no public comment, but Camilla's presence loomed like a shadow over the scandal. Insiders claimed the Queen Consort knew. And nodded. Was this her subtle revenge against a woman who once dared to overshadow her? From the moment the emails surfaced, questions swirled about who sanctioned their release. Royal protocols are not broken on a whim. Such a coordinated and devastating move so precise, so unforgiving could only have happened with high-level approval. And while King Charles remained diplomatically distant, whispers pointed to someone else entirely. Someone whose disdain for Meghan was whispered behind palace curtains long before the world ever suspected it: Camilla. Sources inside the palace claim Camilla was briefed at least 48 hours prior. She was told what the emails contained, how damaging they were, and what their release could ignite. Her reaction? Measured. Cold. Unshaken. Not a word of protest. According to one aide, she simply nodded and said, "Then let the truth be truth." That moment, they say, sealed the decision. The animosity between Camilla and Meghan was never officially acknowledged, but it didn't need to be. Behind closed doors, the Queen Consort was known to despise Meghan's flair, her popularity, her headlines. Camilla had spent decades clawing her way back from the margins of public contempt, and then Meghan waltzed in and nearly hijacked the royal spotlight. The press pitted them against each other. Private remarks leaked. At one point, a palace source recalled Camilla saying, "I've survived Diana. I'll survive her too." Then came the smile. Subtle. Brief. But captured. During a state luncheon, just hours before Harry's collapse, Camilla sat stone-faced beside foreign dignitaries until her lips curled, ever so slightly. It was enough to send royal watchers into a frenzy. Was it satisfaction? Vindication? A silent signal that the storm was coming? Some now speak of the Camilla Doctrine, a quiet but powerful policy shift inside the palace. No tolerance for outsiders. No forgiveness for rebellion. Meghan was never viewed as family, only as a threat. And threats in Camilla's world were to be neutralized not with confrontation, but with silence, precision, and strategy. Perhaps most chilling are the reports that Camilla said, in private, let her hang by her own words. The phrase has echoed through royal corridors, repeated in whispers, denied by official spokespeople, but never fully dismissed. It was too specific, too revealing, and too aligned with what followed. For too long, Camilla's role in palace operations had been underestimated. Dismissed as ceremonial, softened by PR, sidelined in royal strategy. but insiders now admit she's more embedded than ever before. She sits in on briefings, reviews communications, consults on responses. She knows where the pressure points lie and how to use them. And so, while the world looked for a villain in flashing headlines, the real power moved quietly. No public gloating, no press statements, just a nod behind closed doors and a silence that said everything. But not everyone in the palace approved, because behind locked doors, a royal air was spiraling. As the ink dried on the headlines, Prince William erupted behind palace walls. Witnesses heard shouting, chairs scraped. "You crossed the line," he reportedly barked at a senior aide. Was this about Meghan? Or about protecting his brother from a kingdom that eats its own? For a man trained to restrain every flicker of emotion, William's outburst was seismic. This wasn't just a breach of royal protocol, it was personal. Deeply personal. He hadn't been warned, not briefed, not consulted. The emails were released while he was away on official duty, and by the time he returned, the damage had detonated across the globe and across the heart of his fractured family. Sources closest to the heir claimed this wasn't rage at Meghan's words. It was fury over betrayal. Betrayal of trust, of timing, of whatever fragile chance still remained for a path back to his brother. The two hadn't spoken directly in weeks, but there had been talks of a quiet reconciliation, a mediated meeting, a ceasefire. That, William now believed, had been torched deliberately. Behind closed doors, the relationship between William and Harry has always been a complex knot of rivalry, loyalty, resentment, and love. But something about this moment pulled every thread tight. In his younger years, William had played the role of protector. But now, standing in a palace that had weaponized his brother's private life, he found himself asking, was he still part of the same machine? Tensions boiled over in one reported confrontation with Camilla. It was never supposed to go public, but insiders couldn't hold it in. William allegedly stormed into her private chamber, demanding to know who made the call. The Queen Consort reportedly remained calm, unshaken, and offered no answers. The silence only enraged him further. "This is not how we treat family," he said to have shouted before storming out. That phrase, "not how we treat family," hit a deeper nerve. Because for William, the unspoken brother's code had always been sacred. Through scandal, grief, even betrayal, they'd kept each other afloat. But now, that code was broken. Not by Harry, but by the very institution meant to hold them both. William knew what this meant. The release of those emails wasn't just a PR disaster, it was a scorched earth move. One that made reconciliation nearly impossible. He confided to one aide, "Even if I called him now, what could I say? That I didn't know? Would he even believe me?" Still, he tried. In the hours after Harry's collapse, William made multiple attempts to reach him. Calls, messages, all went unanswered. Not out of malice, but grief, isolation, maybe even fear. The divide had widened into a canyon, and William could feel it swallowing any remaining brotherhood between them. In moments of rare vulnerability, those closest to William say he blamed himself. That he had let the palace get away with too much. That he hadn't protected Harry when it truly mattered. And that now, the consequences weren't just political, they were personal. Brutally so. But if William was fighting for his brother, others were celebrating the downfall, and one woman's silence spoke louder than any headline. As the monarchy reeled and the media circled like vultures, the Princess of Wales vanished. No statements, no sightings. Not even palace sources knew her location. Was Catherine hiding from the chaos, or distancing herself from the crown's darkest move yet? Her absence wasn't announced. It wasn't acknowledged. It simply happened. One moment, her name was printed on royal calendars for a school visit and charity luncheon. The next, those appearances were quietly scrubbed. No explanation, no rescheduling. Just silence, and in the royal world, silence always speaks. Insiders suggest she left in the early morning hours, just after Harry's collapse was confirmed. Not alone, but with the children. A low-profile exit, untraceable by press. The location? Still unknown. But rumors swirl of a countryside estate off-grid, tightly secured, and far from the public eye. Was it protection? A mental escape? Or something more symbolic, an intentional step away from the institution itself? Those closest to Catherine describe a woman deeply shaken, not just by the email leak, but by how far the palace had gone to protect itself. A whisper has surfaced, allegedly spoken to a senior staffer before her disappearance. "This isn't who we are. Or at least, it's not who I want us to be." Whether true or planted, the words now trail her like smoke. Her silence was quickly interpreted as disapproval, and it cut deeper because Catherine has long been the monarchy's silent strength, the calm, composed bridge between tradition and modernity. But now, even she appeared unwilling to stand beneath the falling crown. Tension between her and William reportedly worsened in the days following the collapse. The stress of the scandal, the emotional weight of Harry's condition, and the guilt of not preventing the leak all took their toll. While William fought internally, Catherine seemed to withdraw entirely. Some say she begged him to intervene before it was too late. Others say she'd already given up trying. The absence became more than physical. It became symbolic. Royal commentators debated whether Catherine had drawn a moral line in the sand or simply executed a calculated retreat to preserve her image. Either way, her silence created an ethical vacuum, and the public noticed. Then, without warning, a single image emerged, blurry, distant, but unmistakably her. Standing alone outside a small chapel, head lowered. No staff, no fanfare, just presence. It lasted mere seconds before she disappeared once again. But it was enough to spark speculation. Was she praying, grieving, or seeking forgiveness for what the monarchy had become? One thing became clear: her silence was not passive. It was power. And in a palace tearing itself apart from within, it was perhaps the most damning statement of all. While the royals scrambled to control the fallout, across the ocean, Meghan was preparing for war. She was blindsided, humiliated, betrayed. But Meghan doesn't go down without a fight. Within 48 hours, cameras rolled again, this time, not for sympathy, but vengeance. And Netflix was all ears. While the palace scrambled to bury the damage, Meghan moved in silence, then struck with purpose. Her team leaked whispers of a new project. But this wasn't another royal recollection or sanitized retelling. This was different. This was war. The documentary, already in early stages, was refocused overnight. The theme? Surveillance. Silencing. A monarchy willing to sacrifice blood for control. Unseen footage emerged like a jolt to the public's spine. Meghan receiving the news of Harry's collapse. She wasn't performing. She wasn't prepared. The rawness made it undeniable. In the clip, her breath caught mid-sentence. Her voice cracked. Her body trembled. Then silence, long, piercing silence followed by a single phrase. This was the plan all along. What followed was even more devastating. A voice memo, recorded that same night, made its way into the production timeline. In it, Meghan speaks not as a duchess, but as a woman pushed to the edge. "They wanted to finish me, but they forgot I'm still here." The words, laced with fury and heartbreak, signaled the beginning of her counterattack. And she wasn't alone. Within hours, powerful names in entertainment and politics stepped forward. Not just sympathy, but funding. Security. Distribution deals. Meghan wasn't just amplifying her side, she was assembling an army. An army of allies ready to expose the palace's darkest corridors. The documentary's tagline, leaked deliberately, set the tone: the crown watches. But so do we. Suddenly, the narrative flipped. The emails once framed as scandal were now evidence. They painted a picture of a woman fighting not for fame, but for safety. For voice. For truth. And while the palace had released them to shame her, Meghan now wielded them like a blade, slicing through their carefully preserved illusion of control. This wasn't about clearing her name. This was about reclaiming her power. Meghan didn't run to the press. She didn't sit for another soft interview. She picked up the camera herself, produced the story herself, crafted a narrative that no royal aide could intercept, edit, or bury. It was hers, and it was relentless. Palace officials attempted to discredit it before it aired, but they were too late. The world had already decided. Sympathy, once fading, roared back to life. Meghan wasn't playing defense anymore. She was directing the storm. But while Meghan fought back with cameras, another figure behind palace gates was making an unprecedented move: Charles. Never before had a monarch stood before the nation and trembled not with age, but with consequence. King Charles, desperate to hold his house together, took the unthinkable step. He addressed the leak and the collapse. The emergency broadcast was unannounced, brief, and unlike anything Britain had seen from the monarchy. Charles sat alone. No symbols behind him, no grandeur to shield the weight of his words. His voice, though composed, wavered just enough to betray what royal protocol could not hide: guilt. In moments of great strain, we must remember, family must come before the crown. That was the only personal line he gave. But it was the one that echoed loudest. The palace called it damage control. The public called it too little, too late. And within the walls of Buckingham Palace, the whispers were anything but loyal. Some aides confessed in hushed tones they weren't even sure Charles had approved the release of Meghan's emails. That he was, in fact, blindsided by the leak orchestrated under his name. A monarch out of control of his own court. A king watching his crown fracture from within. The tension between Charles and Camilla had already reached dangerous ground. The Queen Consort's alleged involvement in the decision had ignited a storm behind the scenes. Aides close to the situation reported a private confrontation between the couple. Raised voices. Accusations. A moment where Charles allegedly said, "You forced my hand again." What that referred to, no one knows for certain. But the cracks in their union were now impossible to ignore. Inside the palace, the monarch's decision to address the public wasn't celebrated, it was debated. Some advisors applauded the vulnerability, saying it showed strength. Others called it weakness, a break from tradition, an invitation for scrutiny. But Charles no longer seemed to care about appearances. He wasn't fighting for the monarchy's image anymore. He was fighting for what was left of his family. In a last-ditch effort to stabilize the chaos, an emergency royal summit was called. Every senior member invited, crisis teams activated, damage assessments drafted. But one chair remained conspicuously empty: Harry's. No RSVP. No aid. No answer. Just silence. The very absence Charles had feared most. And yet, there was something different about Charles now. A man who had once waited his entire life to wear the crown, now weighed down by its cost. He didn't ask for sympathy, he didn't plead for forgiveness. But in that address, the subtext was undeniable: he was a king on the edge, no longer sure if the crown he had inherited was worth the blood it was costing. But just when the nation thought it had seen the worst, a final leak slipped through the cracks, and this time, it wasn't emails. It was a name. I watched it happen. I warned them. And now, he's in the hospital. These were the first words from the anonymous palace staffer who claimed to be the source and the scapegoat. What they revealed changed everything. The confession arrived quietly, buried inside a late-night tip to a journalist known for her royal investigations. At first, it was dismissed as another conspiracy theory until verification checks came back. The email headers matched palace servers. The writing matched known communication styles. And the details were damning. This wasn't a hacker. This wasn't an outsider. It was someone inside the royal machine. The whistleblower, cloaked in anonymity but visibly shaken, claimed they had tried to stop the release. That the decision to publish Meghan's emails hadn't been unanimous, but a result of an internal civil war between advisors. On one side, those loyal to Camilla calculated, ruthless, driven by legacy. On the other, those still bound to Charles, more cautious, emotionally tethered to the family fractures, afraid of pushing too far. The leak, they said, wasn't just a breach of protocol. It was intentional sabotage. And worse, it had been altered. According to The Insider, several of Meghan's messages had been stripped of critical context. One line was allegedly lifted from a compassionate exchange with her legal team and reframed to sound like a veiled threat. Entire threads were omitted. And one email, the most chilling of all, bore the subject line, "Eliminate narrative." The whistleblower claimed that subject alone sent alarms through the lower ranks, but no one at the top listened. Or worse, they did, and chose to proceed. The motivation behind coming forward now wasn't fame or revenge, the source insisted. It was Harry. He didn't deserve this, they said, voice reportedly shaking in the audio file. I thought it was a strategy. I didn't know it would break him. That simple admission shattered whatever illusion of control the palace had left. With the confession now out, an investigation, however unofficial, was set in motion. Internal audits of communication records, interviews with senior staff. But the damage had already metastasized. Trust collapsed like scaffolding under pressure. Staffers turned on each other. Rumors of resignations forced or voluntary began to surface. For a monarchy built on silence and control, this kind of leak was more corrosive than scandal. It was exposure. More than anything, the revelation reframed the narrative. Meghan hadn't been exposed, she had been targeted. Harry hadn't collapsed from shock, he had collapsed under betrayal. And Charles hadn't lost grip of his family, he had lost control of the palace itself. The royal house wasn't just fractured. It was bleeding from within. The world now looked at the crown not with awe, but with suspicion. Because if one aide could uncover this much, what else was buried deeper? Now, with the crown's image in ruins and its sons estranged, the world watches with one final question. He left for love. He collapsed for truth. Now, a prince once destined for loyalty stands at the edge of two worlds. Will Harry ever return to the monarchy that betrayed him, or has the bridge finally burned to ash? In the days following the collapse, a single clip began circulating, unauthorized, blurry, and heartbreaking. It showed Harry being helped into a vehicle, barely upright, eyes vacant, lips trembling. There were no words, but none were needed. The world had already written them for him. Broken. Alone. Betrayed. Meghan has reportedly become his sole line of defense, physically and emotionally. Those closest to her say she's drawn a line in the sand. He will not go back. Not to the palace. Not to the protocol. Not to the people who weaponized his wife's words and watched him fall. One source put it bluntly. She'll shield him from that place until her last breath. And right now, Harry seems to agree. But thousands of miles away, William is said to be trying one last time. Not with press statements or strategic silence, but with a private message. Delivered through a trusted intermediary, the contents leaked days later. Come home. Before it's too late. Whether that was a plea or a warning remains unclear. But the timing couldn't be more critical. Charles, too, is reportedly shaken. Those within his shrinking circle whisper of a letter handwritten, unsent, but real. A private apology. Not for the monarchy, not for the press, but for Harry. If I could undo what happened, I would. But I can only ask for one thing, your voice. Please let me hear it again. Whether it ever reaches Harry is another matter entirely. Beyond palace walls, the royal image continues to unravel. International commentators speak openly about its irrelevance. Calls for reform grow louder, fiercer, unavoidable. What was once a symbol of unity now appears fractured beyond recognition. And in the center of that fracture stands the man who once wore the crown of the people. And yet, amid the silence, a single photo emerged, striking in its stillness. Harry, alone, standing before Diana's memorial. Head bowed, hands clasped. The same garden where the brothers once stood side by side. It wasn't a return to the crown. It was a return to origin. A quiet reckoning with the mother who first taught him that duty must never come before love. So, will he return? To the palace? To the title? To the family that chose silence over his suffering? No one knows. Maybe not even Harry. But if he does, it will not be as the prince they once controlled. It will be as the man they tried and failed to silence. Because when the crown draws blood, not every heir survives the cost of truth. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.